we'll kick things off. We have Glenn here. He's going to be presenting this leg of the Fintech summer webinar series for Ascent. So, Glenn, the floor is yours.
And I'm going to hand it over to, hi, everyone. I'm Glenn Pasella, Head of Sales and Client Success here at Ascent. I'm going to hand it over to our co-founder and CEO, Arjun, who's going to walk us through a quick deck, and then I'll take you through a demonstration of the platform and what we want to show you today. So Arjun, why don't you take it away, and I'll just drive the slides for you.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I didn't know. I think people can see me now. So, okay, great. Hey guys, if you guys remember my presentation back in the summer, this might be a little repetitive, so I apologize for that. But I wanted to give an overview, a little bit of Ascent, and you're going to get that from Glenn. But primary why we're building this and a quick background on the company and the thought process behind it, because I think it is super imperative about why we're doing this. I love this photo. This is a picture of my parents. And to give you some background, my parents moved from New Delhi, India to Atlanta 24 years ago now. So it's been a while. And that's how I got introduced to the whole credit union movement. My dad had just come, he was going to work at Coca-Cola, and he had just moved to Atlanta. And if you know anything about Atlanta, you know how important it is to get a car. And he goes to multiple banks, and each of those banks reject him because of a limited credit history, and he just doesn't have a great experience. And you're going to see experience is kind of paramount in this entire story. He has a horrible experience, and until he goes to the Coca-Cola credit union, and he loves it. He loves the experience, loves the people, loves the truly the member first attitude, and gets the car, gets a loan, becomes a member for life. My first credit cards with the same credit union as well. So it continued on. But as time has gone by, my parents have sort of moved away from the credit union itself. And it, again, relates to member, the experience concept. So the first time this happened was they were looking for another car loan, and the experience of that credit union just taking way too long. So they ended up going with like JP Morgan. Next, they were looking for a mortgage a few years later, and that process, again, became way too complicated. So they go with BOA, right? And recently, my mom has a new business, and the credit union just wasn't having a great experience for small business owners. And so she ends up going with a neobank, Brex. And mom and dad are not going to hate me saying this, but they've got a little gray hair going, so they're a little bit older. And if they got frustrated with the experience, kind of it makes you think, what about millennials? What about Gen Zs, right? Experience is kind of paramount in this entire discussion we're having, right? And so, as you can see, kind of from the, Glenn, next slide, please.
Sure.
As you can see, kind of our big thing was we kind of sat down and said, why is it that experience becomes so critical? And the question went back to like, how are people trying to solve that? And for the last 10 to 15 years, every fintech has come and explained to you the wrong way of solving this problem, right? You basically have two problems you can solve every single year. And you're given a 6-month period of going and doing vendor diligence. And once you've done your long vendor diligence, spend a lot of money, a lot of time doing it, you spend the next 6 months trying to implement it. You have to go get a team. You have to approve the budget. You have to figure out implementations. You might have to go get a tech team. And what you've basically done is you solved that one small experience problem, right? You might have improved account opening a little bit or credit cards. But you've also added a new data tech stack onto your already pretty extensive tech stack, right? So you've added another silo onto your already siloed process. And what that does is it adds a lot of pain points for your associates, for your employees. It becomes a little bit more fragmented for your members, so it's adding to the pain. So you end up basically going back to where you started. And so that was kind of our core thought of like, how do we solve that problem with Ascent, right? So Glenn, if you go next slide. And so that's kind of what we took into consideration when we started building Ascent. There's two core tenets of what we want to do is super simple. We're going to streamline any product application or form within your institution, right? And you can think of it from loan origination credit card, account opening, renewals, something as small as ACH limit increase, change of signee, any form of application across the board, we want to do that. And we want to do that without disrupting your existing system and processes, right? You don't want to rip out an LOS. You don't want to rip out a core. We also don't want you to, and we don't have the patience to help you do that. So we want to make sure it's as smooth for you and as done as easily for you without having any technical resources or anything like that. I'll go to the next slide and I'll turn to Glenn, but just to give you an example, one of our big customers, MSU FCU, and we've worked with them quite extensively in a multitude of problems, right? So if we started off working, Glenn. Yep. We started off working on their small business loans. And for them, they wanted to streamline the origination process for these loans, right? How do you make that process that is somewhat painful super streamlined? So we connected to QuickBooks, Plaids, did a bunch of data validation, and we made that process super streamlined where we could pre-screen data, we could pre-fill data, and we could really reduce abandonment for their small business origination. And then they said, if you've got a business loan, all information you need for a business credit card to upsell that member to really make that business thrive, they need a business credit card. Well, if you have all that data, Ascent persists all that data across the board. So that credit card application, instead of filling out like 30 different line items, end up being just filling out like 2. And then the next one was auto loans, which became even less than that, right? I think by the third form, we somewhat say we fill in 95 to 98% of all the information needed, right? You really can only have one income statement. You're not going to have 5 of them. So we can persist that data across the board, right? And you might think this only works on like one commercial auto loan, but it doesn't. But if you go on the next one, it can also work on mortgages. It can work on auto loans. It can work on chain of address. It can work on renewals, right? We can go across the board within a department, within the bank itself, right? So if you want to go from business to commercial, because you have the same proprietor who works on the business side, but also on the commercial side, or sorry, on the consumer side, we can do that, right? And it's a super streamlined process without disrupting any of their existing systems at all. So Glenn, I'll kind of turn it over to you to kind of walk through Ascent, or if you have to add anything as well.
Nope, I think we're just ready to jump into the demo. Why don't we do that? If that makes sense.
Perfect. Yeah, and before we get into that, any questions we can answer? Okay.
So far, so good. So I'm going to change the screen share here. One sec. And I want to look at desktop. That's what I want right there. Okay, great. So as Arjun was just explaining, we persist data. Every time we see that member, we're going to retain what we learn about them and be able to reuse it. And we're going to show that in practice. So we're going to start out with, this is our dummy institution here, Ascent Bank and Trust. And we're going to start out with somebody totally unknown to the institution. They come in, they're going to apply for a savings account, checking account, what have you. And then we're going to show you what that looks like, what that experience looks like, not only initially in that application, but the next time they come in. How do we reuse that data? How does this change the interaction between the member and the credit union? And, in this industry, we talk a lot about reducing abandonment. At Ascent, we talk about eliminating abandonment. And we're going to go through a few applications here for this journey, essentially, for this new member. And you're going to see how that works. So hopefully everybody can see my Ascent Bank and Trust website here. We have some pretty clever UI and graphics people and UX people. And so somebody said, hey, can you guys build me a new website for my credit union? But we're not in that business just yet. So I'm going to start right here. I'm just going to hit the apply now button. So again, this is somebody brand new, right? They're a member. They're not a member of the institution yet. Oh, that's not a good way to start. Let me refresh this. Okay, so I come in, new account opening, space, and by the way, this is all, everything that we do at Ascent is white label. This can be branded for the institution. So this particular application you're going to see is just a demonstration application. Also, one of the things that we haven't mentioned yet that's really important, Arjun showed that example of all these different products that we can roll out and forms, right? And when you think about not just product applications, but all the small forms that you have across the credit union, you have some, you have some great UI digital applications, you have some static web forms, and you have PDFs, and like everybody else, you have this fragmented mix of different places where the member has to go and fill something out. We have the ability, and we want to level up all of that within the institution. And to help facilitate that, because you probably have scores and scores of these things, we have a no-code builder that allows you to build these things. So whether it's something really complex, like account opening, a mortgage point of sale, or a small business loan, to the other end of the spectrum, like Arjun was saying, I want to change the signer on an account. I want to sign up for e-statements, something as mundane as that. Every one of these applications and forms can reside on the platform. And again, because we're learning and persisting information about that member and building this 360-degree view of them, every time they come back to fill in a new form, there isn't going to be much for them to do. And you're going to see how this works now. So let me go in here and start this application. Typical account opening application. We do have third-party integrations that would allow pre-filling. I'm not going to go through that this morning, but if somebody wants to connect to their other institutions for Plaid to do the pre-filling, that would be great. I'm just going to start right here, fill in the information, and you're going to see how fast this is. It's going to go through, and I'm going to change this address here. Hang on one sec. I got to put in a fancy email address for this to work. What's today's date? 24/09/04. We'll do it like that. Yep, that looks good. Phone number. Going to do a lookup on my address. I like that one. Mailing address is the same. Basic stuff, right? I'm a citizen, state driver's license. And again, this can be customized. It's your colors, your questions, your disclosures, whatever you need it to be. I'll do that. Expiration date. Like that. Just continue on. And the other thing that we really like to do a lot, especially for complex product applications, is separate pre-screening from the full application. You're going to see that in this case. Why is that valuable? Breaking it into steps, it helps the applicant understand where they are in the process. It also helps pre-screen people out early without somebody having to fill out an entire application. Let's say this was for a business savings account, and there are certain industries you don't want to open an account for that could be screened out early. Obviously, in a credit product, you could screen people out early based on any kind of criteria, their FICO score, how long they've been in business, if they're a small business, those types of things. I'll just mark myself as retired. Do I have an account? Nope, brand new. I'm applying. I want a savings account. I'm going to transfer from an existing account. I'll open the account with $1,000. Let's just say I'm going to get that money from our arch nemesis, Wells Fargo. And I'll put in my. I'm not going to be writing checks. If it was a joint account, obviously I can fill in that information. Again, the team is really good at these types of UI experiences. So we work with our clients to take a long, complex application, let's say, break it up into sections based on the logic, make things appear or disappear, et cetera. Yep, sure, I'll apply for an ATM card. And this is really truncated because it's for the purposes of a demo, but you get the idea. So I filled out the application. I'm going to submit it. Now I'm going through KYC. Okay, so I'm done with that application. And now what it's asking me to do is, if I put in a password, I'm going to set up an account, and that will allow me to go in, check on the progress of this application because it's being reviewed. And it will also allow me potentially to apply for other products. So you're going to see how that works. Okay, I'm just going to put in a password. And I'm going to create that account. Okay, now I'm done. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to delete these so I can start again. Hang on one sec. And I'll delete this credit card application too. Oops, let me delete that. Okay, so I'm in here. I've submitted my account, my consumer account opening. I'm waiting for something else to happen. Let's just say I get approved for the account and I come back 2 weeks later and I want to apply for a credit card. So I click in here to the consumer credit card application. And this is also broken into two pieces, a pre-screen and then the full application, and then I'll go in. I'm going to show you something interesting here. So this is where the power of Ascent kicks in. So looking at this application and all these questions, you see these little chips under here with the A on it? This is, so in the case of, this would be your logo, right? This is our Ascent Bank and Trust, so it's got a little A. But if this was your credit union, your logo would be there. And what these little chips indicate is we have information about this member already that can be used to pre-fill this application. Now, you could have one big button up here that you could hit that would pre-fill everything. We certainly can do that. Most institutions that we work with, their compliance people want the applicant to go through and physically say, yep, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. We can handle it either way, but watch how easy this is. So like I said, I've only been here once. I applied for a share account. Now I can just quickly go through. I can put in this information, same address, come through mailing address. Yep. On to the next page, same thing. Credit limit. Now this is, I'm going to put in a credit limit increase. How much do I want to spend on let's put that in. I can change the value if I want, or I can accept the one that's there. I can do that. On to the next. And a little bit more information. I'll just put this in, put this in. Yep, I have an existing deposit account. I go through, and now I'm pre-approved, right? So again, now I'm going to go through the full application, and I can just use the values that are here and just continue to move on. Wants a little bit more information, and I can pull from the, again, because I use the driver's license to apply for the account, I can just come back in here and reuse that information. And in this case, yeah, I'm going to give permission to pull a hard credit check. Also, I can pull up a file if necessary. This may not really be necessary in the case of a credit card application, but sure, why not? I can add a file. I can add other people to the card account if I want. Hit next, and then I'm going to submit it, and I'm done. So now that application is in. So if I come back here to my products, you can see now as the member, I've got this consumer credit card application that's also in flight. So let's say I get the credit card approved, and I'm using the card, and 6 months later, I want to ask for a credit line increase. So I come in here, and you can see I could have any number of products here, right? These would be different Ascent products, applications, forms, etc. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to apply for an increase. Start the application. And again, all this information is already readily available. Now I can overwrite it if I want to use a different phone number, for example, or I can just click these buttons and pre-fill this. So what you can see here is from now on, every time I come back to the credit union to apply for a new product or fill out a simple form, and again, it could be, I don't know, change of address. It could be skip a pay. It could be, I want to move the pay date for my car loan from the 1st to the 15th. It could be anything. All of the information that Ascent has already gathered about me in previous applications is available. So I'll just quickly go through this. Check that off. Yep. Yep. And same thing, just hitting these buttons. And like I said, could be one big button at the top if your compliance people are okay with that. Otherwise, I'm just going through and I'm clicking through these values. Same thing, same thing, same thing. And what's my new, this is the only thing I got to fill out, right? I'm applying for a new credit limit. And so I need to put that value in there. Whoa, not 150,000. We'll say 15,000. And I'll submit that. And that's it. I'm done. So every time I come back, Ascent has learned more and more about me. And to Arjun's point, once we've seen somebody for the third time, we can pre-fill at least 95% of the information. Stop and think about all the forms you have. And every time somebody walks into a branch, or they call the call center, or you email them a blank PDF and they have to start from scratch, you know what's going through their mind. I've been with the credit union for 15 years. Why don't they know me? Why do I have to fill these things out? This completely eliminates that. So it's a much better experience for the member. Obviously reduces work for your associates as well if they're engaged with the members and filling out these forms and applications. It just makes for a better experience, and it's a real differentiator in the market. So that's it. I've gone through, I've applied for 3 different products in, I don't know, about 5 minutes, and stop there and love to take any questions people have, or provide any other information.
One thing I would also add is, right, if these are super simple applications, right? If there's like, you know, the tax or QuickBooks or Plaid connection that could be done, right? We can persist that data even more. So let's just say you're a small business, you are collecting, you want to validate, you want to pre-fill them, and you just want to connect your QuickBooks, right? If you can pull QuickBooks information, we can streamline even that aspect of it, right? So if you think about a renewal for a small business line of credit, we haven't shown that, but we can automate that entire process, right? From realistically pulling their statements, their income statements, their P&L, anything from that from QuickBooks directly. If they give us access to their tax files, pulling that, and we can renew that, right? So you have truly automated the sending of information from the member to the credit union completely, making that process fairly seamless, right? And there are multiple different things you can do with that data, from validate that data and aspects, right? And then the kind of the new focus for the next few years with many of the financial institutions is around AI, right? This truly allows you to have a solid base to actually build AI on. You have your own data set you can actually build AI on, right? Rather than a fragmented data set. So it goes to kind of some of this like key, you know, benefits outside of just an experience there that truly kind of in many ways future-proof the organization for the next few years to go.
And one more thing I'd like to add. We talked about this no-code builder that allows these complex or simple applications and forms to be built and deployed very, very quickly. Because we have the builder, and we can do these things very quickly. One of the things that we often do when we're working with a credit union that's evaluating us and potentially wants to work with us, we always reach that point where it's like, this looks really interesting. We think we like it. We're trying to understand the business case, but we really want to know how this is going to fit in with our institution. And it's really hard to know, right? Everybody on this call has bought software before. To a large extent, it's hard to know whether it's a fit for the institution until after you buy it. And then, you know, you find out whether or not you made a good decision. One of the things we do to help with that, again, because we have the no-code builder, is you give us any application or form, something that is really painful right now for the institution, or maybe it's something you've budgeted and you're trying to find the right vendor to solve, whether it's account opening or something else that you're working on. And give us your current form or process. And within a week and a half, we'll come back and drop that with improvements into a sandbox and allow you to play around with it. We call it a conference room pilot. And we like to do this for credit unions so they can see, number one, so we're putting our money where our mouth is. You can see how fast and lightweight and easy it is to work with the technology. But also, we think it's really the only way you can understand whether this is a fit with your culture and how you operate as an institution. And so we want to allow you to do that.
So this is Grant. I have a question. Can you speak to integration with the LOS's cores, CRMs? You know, what does that look like? Is there like a batch you already have kind of ready to roll? You've got some that are in the works, or will you work kind of custom code as needed?
Both. There is a batch that we already have. I'm trying to go find the list. Okay. So we've got a whole bunch of Fiserv cores, a Scimitar, Silver Lake, which obviously credit unions don't use, Horizon, IBS from FIS, CSI, Finastra. We're working on correlation. And on the loan origination side, we have Loan Vantage,
Abrigo.
Abrigo, and we're working on Baker Hill as well. And we're just going to continue to go down the list. Obviously, that's what enables this technology. To Arjun's point earlier, we're just attacking that experience layer. We want to improve the experience, but then drive that down into the systems of record where they consume the information and work from there.
Right. Yep.
Can I ask what core you have?
It's a Fiserv core.
Okay.
So yeah, from an experience with that, you know, do you have clients, or are you versed in, you know, in-house versus hosted? You know, what does that look like from a connectivity perspective? Do you use us as kind of the gateway to them, or are you directly connected with some of these cores?
Just depends.
Each connection is individual to the institution. So there's a process we have to go through where we have to talk to your Fiserv sales rep, and then they set us up with the API connections, and then we're able to make that happen.
Right. So you're direct with them then, instead of going through the FI.
Yes, that's
we
correct.
we direct with them, but we have to integrate to your instance specifically.
Correct.
You have nothing, like it's just a introduction for us into the rep, and we should be good to go.
Yep. I was just trying to ascertain if you're using us as the gateway to Fiserv, or if you have the direct connect to their data centers. There's some, you know, where you're in the middle, which is obviously not the best solution.
Yeah, we work directly to their data centers. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay. Well, Amy, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. That was really great. A copy of this recording will be available probably tomorrow. And if anyone has any additional questions, reach out. We can connect you with Arjun and Glenn. Have a great day, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.